Good morning and welcome back. Okay, now my word and my goodness, I had no idea that we would get such scathing dissent over the concept of a nose cone on the Harley Davidson. I've created something there that is very reminiscent of a standard calf racer nose cone, and that's what I had in mind. A lot more work to do on it in terms of its finished look and everything else. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a change of direction. Two reasons. Firstly, I'm listening to your opinion. I hear what you say. Definitely that upsets people and they don't like it. And for those who support it, yes, I know it's my bike, and yes, I know I can do what I want, but also you are our viewers and you support what we do, and we appreciate everything that you bring, including your opinions, mostly. And obviously what I want to do is sit that to one side. Just set it to one side, because as it stands at the moment, I have a crossroads, I have an option. That isn't finished. The basic shape of a calf racer nose cone is there. But if I'm going to put it on this bike, it's got to be finished down these sides at that angle. But if I'm going to put it on another bike, another day, it would be finished in a different shape. It might come back here or something. So before I do anything more to it and make it unusable in the future for another bike, I'm going to hold it there. Because at that moment, as that stands, that's a really usable donor for something else, because I would like to consider, after all of your requests and advice and guidance, a calf racer build next after this. It's about time. I've never done one and I've always put it off, and that's a great piece for a calf racer build once it's finished. So I'm going to leave that for there. I'm going to set it to one side for that reason, because so many of you don't think it works on this bike. I'm kind of Marmite on it. I like it, but on this bike I can take or leave it. So in that sense, I'm going to stand it over there. The other reason is I've run out of welding gas, and that's £80 for a refill on the bottle, and that's quite a chunk out of the budget, and I've got a lot of other stuff to do. So instead, as I've said a few times, at the risk of repeating myself, I'm going to stand it over there, sit it to one side and save it. It's a lot of work and I'm proud of it as it stands, and I'm going to do all the other stuff. I've got lots to attend to on the bike. I've got to deal with the stanchions and clamps here. You'll see that in a minute. That's the first thing this morning. And the fork legs, they're in a terrible state down there, and they've got to be dealt with too. So I'm going to attend to that today, and then there's lots of other things after that. There's an awful long way to go on this bike still, and I've given myself a deadline of March. I'm going to be riding this in March. Might be the end of March, but it will be March, and that's not going to happen if I bury myself in this for much longer and then it ends up a blind alley. So I'm going to sit that over there, as I've said, and then deal with this, the forks and everything else at the front. I've got some amazing thank yous to make first. Once we've done that, let's get on with some work. But first of all, some very special people to say thank you to. Right then, okay, first of all, these thank yous. Now you remember that when I got these clamps that I'm going to use for the Harley, they came with these bolts to bolt them on. They lock into a single-sided slot inside so they don't turn, and that's how you bolt them to your top yoke. Any regular top yoke bolted straight down. But I wanted them on risers, so that bolt wasn't by any means long enough, so you may remember that I made these, and I made them with a length of stud bar, and I cut the top off to the correct length that I needed, so they're long enough to go through the risers and the nut and the bolt and the top yoke. And at the same time, in order to create that top, I welded a nut on the top, machined it down, put a flat in it and put it in the top. Now that made what I required. That got me over the problem. I looked everywhere in the market to try and find some bolts that are 200mm long, M12, that I could use, and couldn't find them in any of the bolt shops. They're all special order and everything, need to buy a quantity, and I didn't really want to because they're quite expensive even if you buy 2 or 3, so I made my own. Now many of you had expressed an opinion that they would be weakened and unsafe, whatever the tensile strength of that stud bar might be. The heads, and I accept this, the heads have both been welded on. When you weld anything, you heat it up to red heat and you let it cool again. That effectively anneals it. When you anneal anything, it becomes soft. So whatever they are, or whatever that stud bar was in terms of tensile strength, it probably isn't now at the top. which is the anchor point that holds it. So one of you guys reached out to me. Now, I have a bit of a dilemma here. I love, if I possibly can, to say thank you to people properly and to name them and let them stand up and take a bow for the thank you and all the rest of it and the kind gift they've given. But this particular individual has asked specifically not to be identified. He has said, please don't say who I am. I don't want the world knowing my name. That's fine. But I want to say thank you to you, sir. You know who you are. You're watching. These bolts arrived in the post. He sent me these. Now, what they are is a 200mm long M12 metric, same thread as that. Yep. And they are tensile steel Allen bolts. Now, switch to macro mode for you just for a second. You can see there that they have stamped on the head 12.9, which indicates clearly that what these are is 12.9 high tensile steel bolts, and they are perfect for the job of what I made these for. And so I've got to modify those so they will fit, and when I've done it in a minute, I can fit those with my handlebar stanchions and I will have the proper 12.9 tensile strong bolts holding my front end in. And that is what everybody out there said I should have. That is what now I do have. Thank you to a very kind viewer. Sadly I can't name you, but thank you, sir. You know who you are. You're a lifesaver. I couldn't find these anywhere. Thank you so much. So on to the next thing. Okay, the second thank you goes to a kind viewer who's been in touch with us a long time, who's been watching our videos a long time. He runs a company called Delboy's Custom Cycles. Now, Dan is a member of the National Chopper Club, the NCC. If you've never heard of the NCC, and you're a layman, perhaps watching from outside the UK, I think most motorcyclists in this country have heard of the National Chopper Club. But if you haven't, like I said, you're overseas, the National Chopper Club is what's best described to the layman as a serious hardcore motorcycle club that focuses on its bikes and custom bike building. That's its central core interest. They're not what you might call the three-piece back patch and 1% outlaw club. They're not. That's not what they are. They have one single back patch, a white diamond, and if you've never seen them, I think it's best, rather than me try and explain it, I'm going to put a link underneath the description of this video to the National Chopper Club's website so you can see what they are and who they are. And also at the same time, I'm going to put a link to Delboy's Custom Cycles, who is the person who sent me this next gift. He was watching and said, look, the front of your bike with the big risers and tall stanchions, there's a vagueness there from the flex that's created. They rubber mount these things at the factory for comfort, so we're all yummy and comfy, but that doesn't do anything for handling. What it does instead is it makes it vague. It brings what somebody recently and very cleverly referred to as compliance. Compliance, in the sense that it's being referred to here, is movement. So those stanchions that I've made, there's an element of movement in them. When you've got the big ape hangers on, they're allowed to move. And that simply makes the vibration slightly isolated from the rider's hands, and at the same time it makes it a little bit more comfortable. But what it does as a byproduct, as a really bad byproduct, is it brings a vagueness to the steering, because when you're turning the bars, the front wheel itself isn't absolutely in contact. There is a movement between the two. And even a microscopic amount of movement is going to add that vagueness. Now what Dan makes at Delboy's Custom Cycles is these. Now these are lock-up bushes. They're made from solid stainless steel, as you can see, and their job is, if I just get the riser, their job is to, I'll use these for now because they fit. Come in through here, and when you put them through the bars, you fit these to the top yoke, and I'm going to do it in a minute. They come out through the bottom and then you bolt them in underneath. So what you've got here, instead of a rubber bush, you've got a solid steel block, and that takes away all of the vagueness and all of that movement and twist in those risers. And so many of you said that, and I think it was where Dan picked up and said, let me send you some of my lock-up blocks. So thank you, Dan, sir. You are a gentleman indeed. I deeply appreciate that. Receiving these has given me something else as well. It's given me a nudge to keep on with the lathe turning, to keep getting better, because looking at these, honestly, take a close look. Come and have a look at these. Just look at the quality of this workmanship. Look at the quality of that machining. It just makes you cry. That is so superb. They're just mirror polished, but they're not polished. That's a turned finish. So it goes to show me, personally, how far I've got to go as an amateur machinist. to ever make anything half as good as that. So once again, finally, thank you, Dan, for these. That is going to make a great deal of difference. And I'm going to fit those today. Once I've painted these black, I'm going to fit those so I can lock up the whole front end. Many of you made that point that the whole front end looks like it's flexing. Well, it wasn't actually tightened up, but however much you tighten it up, even if you torque it right up to factory spec, there's always going to be that compliance in the front end, and I don't want that. I want to lock it up completely. And as for any comments about vibration in the bars, just get on with it. I've never had a problem with that. If necessary, I can make some brass slugs to go in the end of the bars, hidden ones, and damp that weight away. But it would definitely be better to have these than to have rubber ones. So finally, again, thank you, Dan. Put your sticker up on the board. You are a gentleman indeed. Please take a look at Dan's website underneath in the description, and also the National Chopper Club website as well, and teach yourself a little bit about a hardcore motorcycle club. Super. Right. And finally, the next and biggest thank you of all. First of all, as you know, we needed a pulley for the rear wheel, a final drive pulley. The state it was in, as you can see here, if I throw up an image of it, it was awful. The outside can be repainted, that's no problem at all, but it's the teeth. The pulley teeth themselves, the chrome plating is peeling off, it's sharp, it's vicious, and it's going to chew lumps out of the brand new belt that was fitted. So I can't afford that, I have to replace it. Best price UK was about £261 from the local Harley-Davidson main dealer, which I think was only marginally cheaper from Jersey Harley-Davidson, who are VAT free, but you still pay postage carriage to get it here. So really, the only option was from one cool guy called Alex, who lives in America but has family here in the UK. So thank you, Alex, for your offer. He was going to buy one in America, bring it over with him when he comes over for Christmas holiday, and then post it to us overland. It would have worked out about £180, and that was our option. That was our final only option. So thank you, Alex, that was great, but thankfully, and rather wonderfully, we had a guardian angel fly down, didn't we, Fen?
We did.
Amazing. Now, we got a contact from somebody called Jochen. Jochen is a patron and one of our long-term viewers. He works for a company, this Wrecking Crew brand. He works for W&W Cycles. Now, I'm going to throw a link in the description underneath so you can see who they are and have a look at them, have a look at their website. You'll see that they do customs Harley-Davidson parts and factory Harley-Davidson parts as well. So he wrote to us and said that I notice you need a pulley and may we be of assistance and send you one. He checked it with his boss and they said yeah, they agreed, and they sent us a brand new pulley. Absolutely amazing. So here we have a brand new Harley-Davidson Big Twin 1.5" pulley, which is exactly the one I have on the bike in every way, and that has rescued us. It truly has. When I say that, we have a limited budget for this build. It's got to be on the road by March, so I've only got so much spare earnings or spare wages each week that I can dedicate to parts and accessories for this build. By March I have to get it done. So the money I had, the purchase of this would have eaten half the budget and meant that I couldn't do other things I want to do. I want to buy some cool suspension for it as well and do lots of other things, but I couldn't have done it if I had to buy this. So Jochen and all the guys at W&W Cycles, thank you so much. You've made it possible that I can now carry on and do better things with this than I was going to do. Amazing. Thank you so much. So there we are. Anything else, Pen, on that?
Just again, thank you so much for all your help. Absolutely.
Thank you. Now I better shut up and get on with some work today. Thank you, Jochen. And thank you, Dan. And thank you to the other guy for the bolts. You know who you are. Let's get on with some work. Now that's got them dealt with. They'll take a few hours to dry before I can put them on, rebuild everything with the new solid mounts and everything later on this afternoon. But for now, for the rest of the morning, it's stuck into the bottom of these fork legs. They're in a terrible corroded state after 45,000 miles and 920 years. They just need some attention. It is a simple process. Many riders out there have got bikes with the bottom of the fork legs all pitted and corroded. The original factory lacquer is not particularly protective. It usually starts to pickle up probably after the first year or so. So here's a way, if you're interested. This is how I do it. This is how I bring a set of fork legs back with no drama, just a little bit of hard work and dedication. So let's get stuck into that. God, that wheel is so heavy. Let's weigh that wheel. Damn. Honestly, oh my goodness, that is the heaviest front wheel ever. Let's find out how heaviest it is. Let's show you first. That is the front wheel. Clearly it's a solid billet wheel. Solid billet aluminum. And it's a Harley Davidson part. It's from the Harley Davidson accessories and bling range, and it's really heavy. 21 inch by 2.5, standard factory spec sort of dimensions, and it's solid. Most cast wheels that you see, or most alloy wheels, are cast, and they're cast hollow so that they're actually not heavy, but that being a billet wheel, and there's a lot of it really, isn't there? I mean, look at the fat spokes, they're quite chunky, and all this hub, can't even pick it up, yo. All this hub in the middle is all just solid. So let's see how heavy it is. Got the scales of doom. Let's start them on kilogrammies. There we go. Kilogrammies. Let's see what this thing weighs. This will make a. This is going to be a decision whether I keep this or not. I reckon this weighs about 10 kilos. Oh my god! 16 kilos. What is that? 33 pounds? What is that, 2.5 stone for a wheel? Oh my god, look at that. 16 kilos. Jesus Christ, that bike. So 16 kilograms that front wheel weighs. Can you imagine the performance that literally sucks out and throws over your shoulder? That is going to be such a lot of unsprung weight removed, because I reckon a standard front wheel, you know, the ordinary laced spoke, 40 spoke front wheel that you get with the bike from the factory, 6 kilos. With a tyre and the disc on it, 5 or 6 kilos, 10 kilos saved just by throwing that on eBay. Now, someone's going to want this, and it's a great way to help fund the build. I'm trying to raise money for the other stuff I need, like the shocks and the bits and pieces. I mean, I want some cool suspension for this. I want to lower the front a little bit as well so it matches. Maybe even put a 19-inch wheel on it, which will lower it an inch, because this is 21, work it out, there you go. So that's going up for sale. I am not putting that back on permanently. It is way too heavy. I want the bike to be fun to ride. That is an HGV wheel. But if you don't mind and you want that on your Harley Davidson wide glide, it will probably fit a night train as well, which is a soft tail, so let me know. Get in touch. It's a 99, that fits. It's got new bearings in it because it's absolutely silky smooth. Your disc will fit straight on it. It's all compatible. In fact, it will take 2 discs. So it will take twin disc if that's what you've got. But there we are. I can't put that back on. I just can't. That's too heavy. Honestly, yeehaw. I know it was heavy, but 16 kilos for a front wheel. That shot me rigid. My goodness. So to one side, while I do the forks, when they're done, I'm going to throw it back in just to stand the bike on it. But when I get a new front wheel solution sussed, then this is for sale. So drop us a line either in PM or in the comments or on an email. You got the address. Just let us know if you're interested and we can talk turkey. Right, okay. Now if this works for you, if you've got forks like this kind of grey, pitted, nasty finish, as you can see by looking at it, it's in a right old mess. This is the original factory lacquer, as you can see. As I've probably said already in an earlier video, this section here that you can see is where they're probably originally buffed off after being cast, and they just lacquer straight over that. Had these ever been polished and re-lacquered, that wouldn't be there anymore. So that's proof this is the original factory lacquer. And at this top edge, you can see the lacquer's going, all the water's got underneath it, a little peppered with stone grit, that sort of thing. Which again is why I'm surprised that the fork legs are so perfect. Not a mark on them. Lucky, lucky. But there we are, that's got to be dealt with. All this, all the way down the front. And when we go around the back of the fork, it's pretty much okay. But it's just nasty, isn't it? Look at that. So here's what I do. Right, I just want to show you what I'm using for this. It's a flap disc, but with Scotch-Brite on it. You know, like the Scotch pads, the red Scotch pads you rub back bodywork with? Well, there's lumps of it there, stacked up and made into a Scotch-Brite flap disc. Superb. Now you buy those in the welding supply metal kind of shop. You can get them all over, get them online as well. I get these at Wellington Welding. They're about £4 each. They're quite expensive, but they do last quite well. And as you saw, that buzzed all the old lacquer, corrosion, pitting and debris off that in a matter of seconds. But it does leave this kind of brushed finish, all sparkly and spangly, and that's nice, but obviously that's no good for what I want. This one over here is done. I've got this up to the standard I want just to show you. That one I just did off camera. You go to that one next, which is the blue. That's a finer Scotch pad into a flat disc, and there is a yellow version which is like a polishing one that's super fine, but I haven't got one of those. How much you want to spend on it? Oh, I've got loads and loads of sandpaper though, so I'm just going to use an 80 then a 240 grit and just get all of the muck off that, all of these lines, so that it's like that. And when it's like that, then I can paint them both. Now I'm painting these because I'm de-chroming the bike. I don't want shiny fork bottoms, but if I did, all I do now is get the buffer on there, get that up to a mirror finish, and then put some lacquer over it. Jobs are good and done. But that is not how I want it. I want it black. I'm going to use the tough black for this. I've got 3 cans of it left over from the last project, and I'm just going to use that. It's easy to use, and it's actually formulated for this kind of application. Once that one's like that one, I can paint them both, and then that'll be it today. Let's get stuck in. There we are. Right, that's matting off nicely now, and that is the look I wanted. I've learned with this tough paint in the past, for a lot of experience with this, that you only need 2 wet coats. Any more is just excess for no reason. It is a stone chip kind of chassis paint for crash bars and so on, and it doesn't matter how much you put on, it won't protect it anymore. 2 thin wet coats are all it needs, and that will give it all the protection that it's designed to give. 6 coats actually chips a little easier because it's too thick. So I've learned that through my own bitter experience, and hopefully pass it on to you. If you're going to use this tough paint, don't overdo it, you don't need to. And that's good because it's frugal as well. I only used 1/3 of a tin there to paint those, and I think they look very good indeed. Now I'm going to throw the 16-ton wheel back in, purely so it's not kicking around the floor and tripping over it because I've got no space in here. It's just going to sit there for a minute, partly to annoy me, so I definitely focus on getting a new wheel. I'm thinking a spoke rim with a black rim, or a spoked wheel with a black rim and silver spokes. That would look really cool. Go with the black leads as well, and the chrome calipers. I can't change them. They are chrome, and the chrome on those Brembo calipers is perfect. So I'm going to celebrate that and make them an accent on the fork leg. So you'll get a chrome caliper there, chrome spokes or shiny spokes, maybe stainless, that would be nice, and a black wheel rim and black fork legs, a really nice look. Not too much bling, but at the same time, not all matte black and badass, because that's not the look I want for this bike. Right, let's very carefully, without damaging the new paint, put the wheel back in. Just do everything up finger tight because it's coming straight back out again as soon as I source a new wheel, and then put the risers and the bars on and button up today's fun and games. Right, let's give them a test. Okay. Superb. Absolutely no movement whatsoever. There's nothing moving there. Absolutely, no matter what you do. Completely rock solid. And that's superb. Fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted. When you bolt them up, everything lines up. The risers line up perfectly with the top yoke. You put the bars in and they line up perfectly with the risers. Everything is completely square. Whichever way you look at it, everything is perfect. I love that. That's a luxury. Harley bars are always off one way or the other. Not because your pinch bolts are off or your actual front steering alignment's out, because the bars are always moving around. They always sit twisted somehow in that top yoke, and that is the greatest thing ever, to lock them up. Thank you, Dan, from Dan Desk Custom Cycles. I really appreciate that kind gift. That has made such a difference. I didn't even know you made them, so thank you. And say thanks to the guys from the NCC for allowing us to mention them and put a link underneath. If you don't know about the NCC or who they are, check them out on the website underneath. An amazing group of people, truly. And finally, for the next video, we're going to move to the back wheel. We're going to take the back wheel out, grind off all that flaking chrome and paint around the outside strip of it, leaving the central part shiny and silver. So it'll be a two-tone silver and black wheel, which hopefully will look really nice. And then I can mount my brand new pulley on the rear with brand new bolts, all thread locked in, torqued up correctly. Then I can fit the rear wheel, and that's that done. So again, thank you so much to the guys at W&W Cycles. Thank you, Jochen. Thank you, Wolfgang, and all the team there. We really appreciate it. It's made such a difference to the project. It's freed up budget that I was going to have to send on that, and now I can put it to other things that are far more interesting. So there we are. The nose cone is shelved to one side. Thank you for your feedback on that. Deeply appreciated. We are indebted to you for everything we are. So that's it for now. Join us for the next one for the back wheel. Take it easy, ride safe, and I'll see you next time.
I added a friend who lost at 5-car and draw. He always seemed to be the one that would draw the short straw. He had bad luck and he lost his way. Just a good old country boy who never really had much to say. And that's the life of Delboy, Sam the Pretty